Good evening, everyone. I'm Dina Newman. I'm the founder and director of Kansas City Black Urban Growers, also known as KC Bugs. We've been around since 2022 officially, is when we incorporated as a 501c3, but actually we've been around since 2010, 2011. We put this organization together to support Black growers within 100 miles of Kansas City. And that's really kind of our focus area at this point. I want to talk a little bit about our grant program. We call it the just-in-time grants because we have found out for some folks that money comes in just in time. It is ranges from $500 to $5,000. We usually get our funds to pass out maybe twice a year, spring and fall. So we just finished our spring grant. We will be having another round in October, probably, for the final round for 2025. Again, the qualifications are within 100 miles of Kansas City. You can have an urban farm, a garden, a plot, a pot, a container, because many of our growers, you tend to think, okay, I have to have a large area to grow, but no, there are folks who are doing amazing work growing in pots on their porch, and they are providing food for their families and for their friends and neighbors. The funding, can be used for different things. From soil amendments to fertilizer to plants, and everything in between. We've had some folks leverage those dollars against another grant. So that's certainly available as well. Let's see. Our priority is given to Black growers. We are called Kansas City Black Urban Growers. Of course, we cannot discriminate, but that is our priority. If you are interested in learning more, I guess I'll drop it in the chat, my email address to reach out. And yeah, so that's Casey Bugs. And I know there's a few folks on here. Hey, Shafika, giving me love. Thank you. There are a few folks who've been able to benefit from some of the just-in-time grants. And Stephanie, I do owe you a phone call. So.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dina. So I will now throw it over to Brooke to talk a little bit about City of Kansas City, Missouri, and what they got going on with the plant grant.
All right. Thank you, Eric. So I am Brooke Freeman, and I am the Food Systems Coordinator here at the City of Kansas City, Missouri. I guess I can't control the screen. I'll just tell you when to go next. You can go next now. And also, I do have small children in the next room, so if you hear anything in the background, don't be alarmed. They are supervised. They're just loud. So a little background on the Office of Environmental Quality. We are in the Neighborhood Services Department at the city, and our office is part of our function is to implement the Climate Protection and Resiliency Plan. And the most recent iteration of that was passed in 2022. And the main overarching goal of that plan is to reach climate neutrality for the city operations side by 2030, and then citywide by 2040. So relatively ambitious, but we're plugging away at it, and it's kind of given our office the ability to hire people based on the 6 sections that you see here. So in January of this year, I was hired on as the first food systems coordinator in the office to see over the implementation of the food section of the climate plan. And I outlined the goals of that section, which are really kind of broken down into increasing local food production and local food consumption. So looking at the production side and the food access side within that. And recently, within the past year, there's been a lot of momentum within the city. So there's a specific councilwoman, Melissa Patterson Hasley, has shown a real interest in supporting urban ag, and she was able to advocate for the budget amendments that led to this plant grant, as well as some budgeted positions that are dedicated to supporting urban ag within the city, which is really exciting. So I came in at a really awesome time within the city. There's already a lot of momentum going. So I was able to kind of just hit the ground running. And this grant program is one of them. All right, you can go to the next one. So this is just, yeah, basic overview. So some of, oh,
Sorry.
all
You
right,
want
you
here?
can,
Here?
yeah, you can go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. So I'm just going to kind of break down some of the basic guidelines that you can also, there's a lot of the stuff that's outlined on our website already. But I just wanted to speak to it a little bit more and then kind of go through just like the basic first few steps that you would have to go through once you would be, if you were awarded, so that we can talk through some of those requirements. So here are the main kind of grant guidelines, program guidelines. The applications are open. They opened on July 1st and go through the 31st. So they're open all month. And they close, at the end of the day on the 31st. So you have until 11:59 to submit. The one big thing, because it is a city program, we are limited to supporting farms that are located within city limits. So Kansas City, Missouri city limits. The other thing, because this was a budget amendment, the projects that are funded do need to wrap up at the end of our fiscal year. So by April of 2026, um, the projects that are supported by this grant would need to be completed. The other breakdown here is that the awards are kind of broken into $5,000 awards for new projects or farms. So that means, you've been in production for less than 2 years, and then $10,000 for existing projects. So if you've been in production for more than 2 years. Um, and the whole pot of money that was part of the budget amendment was $150,000. So I think that breaks up to, we'll probably be looking at around 15 to 20 awards, hopefully. And then the other thing that's part of this program is that 50% of your grant funds will be available up front. There's just a quick form to fill out and sign with the city. It's called an advance payment form. And then you're on your way to getting your first payment. The remainder of the grant funds are reimbursable. So that would require receipts to be submitted, and then the city um, would then uh, send you the money after that. Um, and then so it's also broken into several check-ins that will be required, and then like a quick form submitted in conjunction with those check-ins with me, and then the planning urban agriculture concierge person who will be hired within the next month. So that just is like, how's it going? Are you running into any obstacles that we can help you with? And that's basically it. So it's pretty straightforward. Um, yeah. All right, next slide. All right, so the basic goals that we're hoping are accomplished with these projects that we're hoping to fund are that they meet one of the following goals. So increase food crop production, processing, and or distribution for public sales or distribution, improve distribution and access of fresh foods, or advance regenerative agriculture efforts to produce food in Kansas City for social and environmental benefits. So I got I got a question earlier today. I've been getting quite a few emails from folks interested. And one of the ones that I got earlier today was about like funding for like a program for chicken and poultry production. And in my mind's eye, that is also applicable. So crops and or livestock would be applicable for this. All right, next. Um, so then kind of going into some eligible expenses, we left it really open because we want it to be able to be the funds to be applied to it. Whatever your needs are is really what we are hoping to help support. So anything infrastructure wise, fences, water, so that includes like water hookups on your site, cleaning stations. I also put land there with an asterisk just because right now the city is doing a big project called the Vacant Land Activation Initiative. So any properties that are city owned right now are kind of like on a selling freeze. So the city will not be selling any land bank properties right now, or any municipally owned properties. But if you find a privately owned plot that you're interested in, that's completely applicable for this program. And then personnel, so whether it's salaries for yourself or farm hands and or contracted work to get some of these projects done. And then supplies and equipment. So anything from seeds to seeders, wheelbarrows, anything you need would also be eligible in this program. All right, you can go to the next one. And who is it for? So I kind of broke down the details of the like new versus existing farm, but really this is for any urban farm selling or distributing produce, any nonprofit or community garden that's distributing fresh produce. So if you are do food production, that is not for personal use, but for the community. And then, yeah, new farmers, I already kind of explained that. Again, distributing produce. And or I did mention livestock, so eggs, meat, poultry, that sort of thing. All right, next. Okay, so now this is going into once you are awarded the grant, you get the email from me saying congratulations. In order to start the contracting process with the city, there are a handful of documents that are required. And that's just what we need to have to put a basic contract PO in place. So one of those is a certificate of good standing, and that is something you get through the Secretary of the State's office. And there is a small fee that is associated with that. And then the next thing is an E-Verify MOU. Um, and then a certificate of insurance with the city listed as an additional insured. So it's like a 2 million commercial liability policy is what is required. And insurance costs, like the cost to obtain this type of insurance can be included in your grant budget. Any of the costs that you need to obtain these documents can be included in your grant budget. And then terms and conditions. So that's just a signature. All right, next slide. And then this just goes through some basic record keeping after your award. So once you are going on your project, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but keep all of your receipts so that you will be able to submit them and get your money back in a timely manner. The city does have 30 days to pay after you have submitted your receipts to us. The next thing is just be responsive to emails and scheduling check-ins. Document your project from start to finish. So And this will help you fill out those quick check-in forms. And then pictures are always great to have as well. And then if you run into any problems or anything with your project, obviously we would love if you could communicate those to us so that we can figure out if we can help you out, especially if it's something that you're running into hiccups in regards to working with another department in the city. We can obviously communicate with those departments and help you any way that we can.
Brooke, Eric
Yeah.
asks what counts as a community garden. He says if we are a KCCG community garden.
So if you are a community garden, that is distributing it within your neighborhood or within the community. So if you are, if it's not just like a personal plot, there is not a size or acre requirement. Nope. So as long as if you are distributing it to your community or your neighbors, that is an applicable project. No size requirement. Yeah. All right, next slide. All right. I just wanted to reiterate, I don't want those contract documents that are required to scare anyone. I know it can seem a little daunting, but we are really here to help you. And we are hoping to do like an in-person like working session with all of the awarded grantees. So after everyone, gets their you're awarded, yay, email, then we'll work with everyone to get an actual working session scheduled so that we can help you sort through all of your paperwork that's required. And then obviously you can reach out to me at any time. And then, yeah, that's the QR code to our webpage and application. Yes, I would say bees are classified. Yep. Bees count. Does produce have to be distributed in Missouri if the garden is in Missouri? I would say yes. Yes, the farm has to be within city limits, but distributed within the community as well. Do you have to be a farm that intends to sell their produce or can? No, it can be given away. You don't have to sell it. Yeah. Mhm. All right, I think that's all I had, Eric. And I'll keep looking in the chat, but
Cool. All right. Thank you so much, Brooke. Yeah, we really appreciate the city putting together these never before done opportunities. So we're very excited to have some folks apply for them. Okay, so next, definitely keep your questions percolating. You can throw them in the chat at any time on either of the grant programs that we're focusing on today or on the KC Bugs just in time grant as well. Please put them in the chat. Next, we are going to move over to Cultivate KC's micro grant program, which is also a new pool of funds that we are distributing this summer. So I'm going to throw it over to Emily to lead that discussion.
Yeah, I'm Emily Kovar. I'm on the Metro Farms and Food Systems team with Eric. So I help administer some of these programs like this grant. This urban agriculture micro grant program is administered by Cultivate KC and Black Urban Growers with funding from the FSA, the Farm Service Agency, and is a cooperative agreement with Time Inc. So that's just kind of where this pool of funding is coming from. The purpose of this grant is to help existing growers expand their capacity to produce food within the Kansas City metropolitan area. So that does include counties, select counties on both the Kansas and Missouri side. We'll get into which ones exactly. But really just looking to help you grow your garden and your farm, your business or your community garden in a lot of different ways. Awards are up to $5,000. That's the maximum award. And me and Eric are also available to do site visits or consult you, meet with you, talk to you over the phone to walk you through the application process and give you advice and help you build a really strong application. Next slide. How you would go about creating a project would be, or writing your application. You would identify what project you want to work on. There's a wide variety of things that are eligible, which we'll talk about. It's really important to communicate in your application why you're choosing this project, why it's important to your farm, what it's going to do for your farm. So also explaining the impact that's going to make is really important for reviewers to see uh, what kind of impact it's going to have, and also being very clear about how you're going to be able to complete this project in the 1 year span of the grant. Because all funds have to be spent in that year time frame. And then you're also going to need to include a complete budget in your application as well. We have a template available that you can use. It's kind of an Excel sheet, and we'll go over that in a second. That's on our application form, so you can find that linked there in multiple places. Next slide. So this is a screenshot of what that budget template looks like. We require that you list out pretty clearly all of the expenses that you're going to need for that project. This can include equipment, travel, contracting, salaries, bills, lots of different things. For anything that costs more than $300, we would encourage you to get multiple bids. If you get multiple bids from different suppliers or contractors, you can include that in your application, and that's great for us to see as well. If the project costs more than $5,000, so more than our maximum micro grant award, that's okay. That's totally fine. We just want you to be very clear where the rest of the budget for that project will come from. So as you can see, there's amount requested and then other income. So you can kind of break down where each of those funding pools is coming from. If you're personally going to pay for the remainder of the project costs, it can be no more than 40% of the total project budget. So that's a little bit on budget. In your application, we need a little bit of documentation, including proof that you're either a market business or a nonprofit. So we would need a 501c3 letter, a state retail sales license, a profit and loss statement, or sales tax returns for 1 full season. In your final application, you can include up to 5 documents that support your project. So it would be those documents, potentially bids, pictures of supplies, pictures of equipment that you're looking to purchase, anything like that, you're more than welcome to include, and it's helpful for the review committee to see those materials. Next slide. Because this is a cooperative agreement with the Farm Service Agency, they do have a couple of requirements for us on applications, and one of those includes a potential for an environmental review. This seems kind of intimidating, especially with how much text is on the screen here, but basically it's just the FSA doing their due diligence that if you're doing these certain activities, they're not harming the environment in any way. So potentially, depending on the project that you're doing, it could trigger an environmental review where an FSA agent would come out, they'd do a site visit, they'd chat with you, they'd check some things out, and if everything looked good to go, they'd pass you on your environmental review and the proceedings would go forward with you getting your grant. Some things that could trigger this process would be disturbing the ground, like removing trees, tree roots, using mechanical means to remove damaged fencing or debris. So really disturbing the ground a lot in areas that haven't been before. Placing farm storage or other facility on a farm eligible or listed on the National Register of Historic Places that might have a visual impact. Modifying, renovating, or removing a structure or building that is more than 50 years old. Activities including new land clearing that may impact water bodies, wetlands, floodplains, riparian buffers, threatened or endangered species, their critical habitat, or cultural resources. Okay, so I'm gonna pause really quickly and just answer this question. Well, actually, you know what? I'm gonna get to that in 1 second. So I'll finish this slide and then I think I'll chat on that in a future slide, Eric. Uh, and then a couple of other things. So again, this is FSA doing their due diligence to make sure no environmental harm is coming as a result of your project. And in our application, there's a couple yes/no questions, and that will just kind of let us get a feel for whether or not an environmental review might be needed, and it might not even be necessary at all. Okay, next slide. So this is the application. It's relatively easy to fill out. Applications are due on Tuesday, August 19th at 5 p.m. So you have a little bit over a month to get that application in. There's a variety of questions about the history of your farm and background on your project and feasibility and things like that. Many of the questions, there's an option for you to upload a video response as opposed to writing something out if that feels more approachable to you. And then obviously you're required to submit documents with your application, which include that proof of business or nonprofit and the budget. Those are really the two things that we do need. Um, you can have building new garden beds. So someone asked, I would be a new farmer. Can I do garden beds? You can have building new garden beds as part of your project in a variety of different ways. But you would need to be either a 501c3 or have like profit loss documentation. So we can get with you and chat through what that might look like for you. Next slide. Eligible projects include land access, so land procurement, down payment, lease, or rental assistance, expansion, so one-time costs that increase production, improved efficiency, so any tools or supplies that will improve the efficiency of your production. Infrastructure, including packing sheds, greenhouses, irrigation, cold storage, lots of different things, sky's the limit. But you do have to show that it will comply with applicable building codes. So if you need special use permits or anything like that, we'll need to know that we're going to be in compliance. Very fun with this grant. You can use it for education and training. So you can pay for conferences, professional development. You can pay for the travel and lodging to go to these educational opportunities with grant funds. And then also projects that will increase farmer services, such as community greenhouses, equipment rental, farmer co-ops, things that are really community focused. Those are definitely eligible for grant funds. We may or may not suggest a modification of your project budget, depending on what the review committee decides when they're looking at your review, but that's just a small possibility. Next slide. Eligible counties in Missouri are Clay, Cass, Jackson, and Platte. And in Kansas, it's Leavenworth, Johnson, Miami, and Wyandotte. So 8 total counties all around the Kansas City area are eligible. Next slide. Similar to the plant grant, any individuals or small groups that are either growing produce for sale or growing for community benefit are eligible. Again, similar to the plant grant, the only real restriction there is, again, you must be a business or a nonprofit, and it must be edible food. So specialty crops like shrubs, ornamentals, flowers, sadly are not eligible for this grant. It's only food. But like Shvika, bees and honey, that's definitely applicable. Poultry, layers, things like that. Food, anything that can be considered food. Would tea count as food? Eric, that's a great question. Um,
This is a great question. Yeah, I would say yes, but we might have to have another conversation offline to discuss kind of what the project looks like, and we can discuss details from there.
okay, yeah, that's a great question. Okay, next slide. So this gets into a little bit of that question of like, if I'm looking at both the plant grant and the urban agriculture micro grant, what should I do? The urban agriculture micro grant, we are anticipating having annual funding for the next 3 years. So hopefully we'll be able to administer this again in the coming 2 years. However, if you apply and you're awarded this year, you can't apply again. You can only receive funding from this specific grant once. If you apply this year and you're not awarded, then you can apply again in following years. But say if you're a producer in the Kansas City limits, Kansas City, Missouri city limits, it might be worth it to apply for the plant grant this year with the anticipation of applying for the urban agriculture micro grant next year. But if you have two projects and you want to take on two grants at one time, technically you could apply for both. That's just maybe going to be a lot of work depending on what they are, and the time frames to get them done in are relatively short. So that would just be a capacity question. For our grant, the Urban Agriculture Micro Grant, you may not be eligible to apply if you've received funding through the USDA, federal, tribal, or state programs for the same purpose, the same project before. Also kind of a similar gray area with applying for the same project for both the plant grant and our grant. If yeah, if that's the additional funding that you're receiving from someplace else, that might be okay, but you couldn't use the exact same funding for the exact same purposes. Okay, yeah, next slide. This is the scoring sheet that the review team will use. Our grant award decisions are made by a 5-member review committee that includes one KC Bugs representative, one producer, one funder, one community partner, and one Cultivate KC staff member. So they will go through and they'll review all the applications and make recommendations, and they'll be using this scoring sheet. So this scoring sheet is also linked in our application. You can take a look at this and you can consider the questions that are on the scoring sheet when you're answering the application questions. It might help you create a stronger application just by knowing what exact things that we're looking for. So that can be found in the application. Next slide. After all parties have signed the agreement, it does have to be approved by FSA. But after that has been done, then you'll receive your check and you have a year at that point to complete your project. About halfway through, we'll do a site visit, Cultivate or KC Bugs, and we'll just check in, take some photos potentially, chat with you over how it's going or if there have been any complications, or if we can help you in any way. When the project is over, awardees are required to submit a final report form, which includes photos of the project, and also this one does require that you keep receipts. So supplies that you're purchasing, contractors that you're paying, hotel and lodging that you're using, We do require that you keep those receipts because they will be required on your final report. So similar with the plant grant, just make sure that you have a folder somewhere that you're keeping those in. We'll also ask that you detail your completed project and describe how it's made a difference in your business or community and outline any ways that it may have deviated from the original plan. Small deviations are totally understandable, and maybe you didn't get the exact type of equipment that you wanted. That's totally fine. If it's going to deviate in a really large way, we would ask that you communicate with us about that ahead of time, just so that we can make updates.
Let me jump in real quick to clarify one thing on this slide.
Mhm.
It's showing the restriction slide, Emily.
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to clarify that if you are applying for both of these grants, you cannot double dip, meaning you can't apply for the same things in each grant. So what you can do, so if you are applying for both of them, you can apply if the project total is like 15,000 that you want to buy I don't know what it is, a greenhouse, whatever, and it costs $15,000, that's okay. But you can't apply for the same funding on each one. It's kind of a nebulous thing. So you can't buy the same shovel or get funding for the same shovel by applying for each grant. Eric, we can have a conversation separately from that. Just we can discuss where you're at in the process.
Okay, I think we're almost done with our side, so we can probably just, yeah, that was it. So this is the QR code for the micro grant page. If you want to take a look at it, but it's also linked in a bunch of places and it's right on our website under farm funding. So yeah, now we can open it up more broadly for questions. Um, Corian asked if another nonprofit can apply on behalf of a garden. There can be like a letter on behalf. Is that right, Eric? How does that work?
We would have to have pretty secure promises from that nonprofit. Like it couldn't just be a letter of support from the nonprofit. They would have to specifically say that they are sponsoring this person to do XYZ thing. So again, I think if that's the case, I would strongly encourage you to get with myself or Emily and go through kind of your specific situation so we can make sure we're, dotting all of our I's before you hit submit. Yeah, in all likelihood, Eric, they would need to be the fiscal agent. But again, that would probably be on a case-by-case basis, just based on what the nonprofit's mission is, kind of, how it fits into their, ongoing, operations. So that would definitely be something I would want to have a pretty in-depth conversation about, just to make sure that everybody is on board with the specific project. It's not a no, but I would definitely want to have some extended conversations about what that looks like, because we have had situations in the past where maybe things happen. Maybe one person in the organization was committed to it, and then they leave, and then where does that leave the person trying to build this farm operation? So yeah, I think we would definitely encourage you to reach out to us before you apply and we can have conversations. Yeah, so Stephanie, the two grants have different areas that are eligible. So the plant grant is just in the Kansas City, Missouri city limits. And the micro grant program is a little bit wider, so it's on both sides of the state line. We did the counties at one point. There they are. So those are the counties eligible for the mini grant program. Okay, cool. So I threw this in here just to let everyone know that Cultivate KC curates a list of opportunities that are available. So this is kind of an evergreen list that Emily makes sure is up to date. So you can find this on our website. So our grants will be up here, but also you can see there's grants from state level, federal level, nonprofits, national nonprofits, other funding bodies. So in the future, great place to look if you were looking for funds for a specific project, kind of above and beyond just these two grants. Okay, I will stop there and we can continue to answer questions. If folks have them, you're welcome to come off mute. If you have a question, throw it in the chat, and we can keep going on questions. And I'm a former teacher, so I'm not afraid of just like dead silence for a little bit. It doesn't scare me.
I got a question. You hear me, Eric?
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I am the president of East Swope Highlands Neighborhood Association. I wanted to get something as far as the association, as far as I don't know if I want to, well, I wanted to grow fresh fruits and vegetables for individuals within our community of East Swope Highlands. There are a lot of older individuals in our community that's not accessible, I feel like, to fresh fruits and vegetables. And then if they are, the price of fruits and vegetables that's the people are charging sometimes can be outrageous for the person's budget. So I am not actually a 501c, but I am a non-for-profit. We did get the empowerment grant, so I know everything as far as going through the city. So is this something I can do as far as starting with garden beds and maybe doing a garden for East Hill communities, uh, the community, because I'm not actually the 501c with the taxes yet. So where do I fall into?
Brooke, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, and if I think Sarah Wagner, our grants manager, is
Uh,
on, but if you already have received the empowerment grant, you should have already had to submit like the required documents
right,
to be in contract with the city at least.
correct.
As far as the cultivate, it seems like some of the documentation was similar. Um,
But
so
see,
I would,
I am actually not a 501c with Internal Revenue. I know that I have to do that paperwork and
mhm.
ongoing, but we're new, we're like 6 months in. It's something I started within the community. So I just wanted to know, seeing I don't have that exact paperwork with Internal Revenue Service, do we still qualify to apply for the grant?
Go ahead, Sarah.
Hey,
Hey,
Sarah.
I'm Sarah. Demetria, good to work with you again. So one thing for some of those IRS documents, if they're hard for you to navigate, our BizCare office can help you with some of those as a business, as a small business. Um, they can't help with everything legally. But they can. I know they can help with the like your standing and getting tax exempt status and that some of the IRS stuff. So
Mm,
that might be a good resource to kind of help start there. And we can always talk to you offline afterwards and look at your
okay,
documents and help kind of navigate if you do qualify.
okay, okay, good deal. Thank you.
But I will also just put just as a note, since you did receive empowerment grants, that you're still eligible to receive the plant grant. So it doesn't exclude you from the pool if you
Okay, great.
received another neighborhood services department grant.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
This is Mark Samborski from Antioch Urban Growers. Do you have time for a quick question?
Yeah, Mark, for sure.
Okay, I have a long-standing dispute with the water department. I mean, I've gone through my state representative and everything, and we are actually in the process of trying to get this settled. It's been like 10 years. I've been completely without city water for 10 years just because of a dispute that it was basically the former owner and a lot of things that had to do with nothing that I could make a difference over. So really, about 8 years ago, we actually came up with a solution. It was going to cost about $10,000, and we could have had that all settled. And I've tried to get grant funding and even loan funding, whatever, but $10,000 is a lot, but it had totally to do with what me and the city had worked out 8 years ago. But that $10,000 was never able to be secured, and it's my system, because of my water bill, it is unique. I have an 11-acre farm, and it has a 4-inch feed line because the original person that owned this property wanted to put in a very large system where I'm a sustainable urban agriculturalist, and I use mainly water off the tops of my greenhouse. But I also educate in the world of soil science and getting people started in gardens, and we have a farmers market here at Antioch. So we need clean water for bathrooms, for teaching the kids. So all of my needs would be totally amazing if I could get water, actually city water here. And I'm currently working with them, but it's just so slow. Someone told me 8 years ago, the wheels of the city move really slow. So just letting you know that.
Well, I would say I would love to talk to you about it, and that would be an eligible type of project in my eye for the plant grant.
Thank you. We will
Yeah,
talk.
yeah, we'll talk. And yeah, because I know the KC Grow program is not currently being funded, which was the grant program that the water department used to have in partnership with KC Community Gardens. And they have had a hard time renewing that contract. And it's our understanding that the source for that grant program is no longer. And so in my eye, I was hoping that this plant grant program could kind of work as some sort of intermediary of that until a specific program is figured out, or we're able to get additional funding within this pool if it's renewed specifically for water hookups, because I know that's as you explained, a very tedious, expensive process. So yeah, we'll talk, Mark.
Thank you.
Yep.
Brooke, you did have one in the chat, which is what are the chances that the plant grant will reoccur yearly?
Yeah. So I think if we have a really good turnout and are able to really um, convey the impact that the program has made, I think that will make it all the more likely that it could be a recurring program. Right now, it is not. Like it was just a budget amendment for this fiscal year. But it's my hope that it will be renewed and maybe even, like I just mentioned, increased. So fingers crossed, but as long as, I mean, I am a dedicated person within the city currently, and so I um, will obviously be administering the grant and communicating the impact. But yeah, as long as we can tell tell all the city officials how uh how much it's been helping people. I think there's always a better chance. So
I see Terrence raising your hand.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I had a question because I had a unique situation as well. So I'm on a Link Site Council committee at my son's school, and when I saw both grant opportunities, I immediately thought about something that we had been talking about, and that was a community garden. But I don't know if we as a committee are eligible for either grant because, we're not a 501(c) or anything like that. We're just a group of parents, teachers, community members that want to do something for our school and our students and the community, as one, whether it be, educating on how to grow crops and start your own garden while we're also starting a garden at the school. So I'm not sure if we're eligible for either grant. And so that was my question.
Yeah. You know, from our perspective, we'd welcome the conversation. I think it might align a little more with Brooks just because ours is for the most part for established growers, but there are exceptions for a really strong project. But it sounds like maybe the plant grant would be a little better fit if I was venturing a guess. The main thing probably would be to get some kind of either maybe even your school's backing on the project. That seems like a good start, a letter of support or commitment from them. But yeah, that might have to be a conversation that you have with Brooke or Emily and I to figure out kind of how you would get the funds. I see Mark.
Yeah, my question is more for Cultivate KC because we're not based in Kansas City, but I represent Community Growers Network, which is an effort to find growers in the community who have excess garden produce and deliver it to a particular food pantry. And our need would be to compensation for the time engaged in that process. Is that something that you feel would be appropriate for the grant?
Um, for that, so you all aren't growing the food yourself, is that correct?
No, that we have 7 growing spaces in Clay County, so we are growing food, but in addition to encourage others to grow food and be part of the distribution system for that food that's grown.
Okay. Um, are you a 501(c)(3) or anything like that?
We have a couple of 501(c)(3)s we're connected with. Yes.
Okay. Um, so, I mean, if you are yourselves growing food, like you would be eligible. If you are not growing food, but somewhere else in the food system, which is great, and we love that work, you would not really be eligible for these grants. But it sounds like your situation is unique enough that it would warrant a phone call here pretty soon. So if you wanted to shoot myself a message, you should have my email. If you wanted to shoot me a message and we can have a chat about what it might look like. I think, yeah, a unique situation like that, we might just have to get in the weeds a little bit and see what we can do.
Okay. I am. Thank you for that. I'm old school enough. I'd love to have that conversation in person. So maybe we can connect and make that happen.
Yeah, great. Sounds great.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, we've got 1 minute left. So if there are any last burning questions, otherwise we are going to say thank you very much for joining us tonight. Glad to see the great enthusiasm for these opportunities. As Brooke said, we really want to prove the truth, which is what we know is that urban growers are in our community and they should be supported. So please, if you are thinking about an application, give us a call. Give Brooke a call. Let's have a conversation. Figure out how to build the best application you possibly can. We welcome your emails.